thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Kayla Gomez, and I'm a program coordinator with Ventures. Ventures is an organization that partners with rural Latino working class families in California's Central Coast to implement transformational programs that ensure a shared and prosperous economic future for all. Together, we're working toward a future where zip code, race, gender, or immigration status do not dictate income or wealth. And today's panel, co-hosted with Colmenar Cooperative, is one in a series of 3, where we'll be discussing different kinds of worker cooperatives and hearing from different worker owners themselves about their experiences. Our next panel will be March 2nd, also at 6 p.m. over Zoom, and will center home care cooperatives. And our final panel in the series will be on the topic of environmental services cooperatives. These talks are also a component of Futuro, a project that aims to create an income and wealth building vehicle for Salinas Valley working class Latinos while prioritizing women and immigrants. Futuro will promote democratic business organizational structures, including the use of cooperatives to accelerate income generation, provide access to markets, and strengthen local equitable economies, including those in agriculture and food systems. Ventures considers Futuro a key component of its long-term vision, where participants use their economic power to advocate for their communities and build their technical business skills. Thank you so much to our panelists for joining us today, and for everyone else for tuning in to learn more about agricultural cooperatives. And I will now pass it back to Ana and Daniela.
Muchas gracias, Kayla.
Thank you, Kayla. Did we present already? Did we have the presentation? So as mentioned by Kayla, we've just begun today with our first community talk. We're going to have 3 community talks. Today, we're going to talk about cooperatives in agriculture or agricultural cooperatives. Can you see my screen well? Would you mind confirming that? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Next, please. So this community talk are being organized by Ventures in partnership with Colmenar Cooperative Consulting, which is our cooperative. We will be introducing that to you. My name is Daniela Preisler, and together with my partner or colleague, Ana Martinez, we'll be leading this series of talks. First, we're going to talk about agriculture, discussing different benefits of this concept, or maybe some barriers, obstacles, areas of growth, and how this business model benefits all of us. Then on March the 2nd, we're going to be speaking about home care. And on March the 23rd, we're going to be speaking about environmental services and environmental impact. Next, please. Well, as I said before, my name is Daniela Preisler. I'm a co-founder and worker owner of Colmenar Cooperative Consulting. I am in charge of the finances of the cooperative, accounting. I'm also a facilitator, and I work with customers providing training, capacity building, program development, all related to workers' cooperative development. We are located in Oakland, California, but we also work at a national level. Here is joining me my colleague, Ana Martina. She's in the east side of the country, joining us from Philadelphia. Ana Martina, you have the floor. Hi, everyone. My name is Ana Martina. I use the pronouns she, her, and I am a member and co-founder and worker owner of Colmenar Cooperative Consulting. As Daniela mentioned, I I am in the land of Philadelphia. I am so happy to join you this evening to talk about the work that we have in cooperatives related to harvest, to agriculture and crops. So I'm really excited to join us today. Yes, we're so excited. And so, next slide, please. We are happy to open these spaces of dialogue and to have your participation to share all this information. We have a panel today with different actors who are part of these initiatives and will share their experiences. This is the agenda for today. After the welcoming remarks, which we already did, we are going to give you a little bit of reference information of the different types of cooperatives, the ones that are most commonly utilized. Also, we're going to be speaking about the impact that COVID-19 had and how it alerted us in terms of the challenges that we have for food chain supply, how these cooperatives were able to organize themselves and face these challenges throughout this period. Also, after that, will invite to our panel two colleagues that are part of that are that are coming from Santa Ana, California. One is part of Cooperativa 13 and the other one is from Cooperativa Salsa. They are working together for the land. We are speaking of Albert Ruiz and Jaime Sosa. They will be joining us today. We'll be introducing them to you a little later ahead. We're going to have a questions and answers, and then after the panel we're going to have open the floor to questions and answers and some closing remarks. We invite you to take notes along the presentation to prepare your questions and your remarks for this space. Thank you very much. So let's start with today's topic and let's talk about the types of cooperatives and the ones that are most commonly utilized in this part of the United States, or in generally speaking. So housing cooperatives, it's an entity integrated by a group of people that join efforts to either buy a land, a building, a facility, and collectively manage it. So they assume the different roles, they distribute tasks and assign tasks to manage and this building. Generally speaking, they have a integration process for new members into the cooperative, and this is the role. Speaking a bit about having access to housing, here there's a group of people joining efforts to make that happen. Another type of cooperative is consumer cooperatives. Their purpose is to procure the best quality conditions, information, price for goods and prices for consumers so that consumers may enjoy these goods and services and have better opportunities within community. They work in favor or to the benefit of consumers. They also have their processes, they assign tasks accordingly. They manage the cooperative. Then we have the producer cooperatives, and here's where we include the agricultural cooperatives. These cooperatives have the purpose to promote artisanal or craft agriculture practices to, decrease prices, joining efforts to compete in a better way in the market and to have a greater presence because they can sell in different quantities and volumes. And they, when join the efforts, they are able to have a better capacity for negotiation and distribution of their products in different markets and spaces. And within this agricultural cooperatives, we have marketing cooperatives as well, which are in charge of the marketing area of the work. We also have services cooperatives, which will provide, for example, packaging services. And in many places, all these cooperatives join efforts and work as a micro ecosystem to avoid the issue of having to access external entities and work better together in this way. Also to the benefit of the community. The other type of cooperative is worker cooperatives, as mentioned before, which is the association of a group of people with the purpose of providing its members and the community economical progress and equity, justice, and humanity. These cooperatives are voted, people are voted, people are owners of this cooperative, so it's managed collectively. There are many benefits, but also responsibility to their members. Their main purpose is to provide decent work. This is its main purpose. I would like to now give the floor to Ana to speak about the food chain during the pandemic. Thank you, Daniela. Yes, I would like to share a little bit to you the information that we collected during 2020. I I think I didn't share before this, but I was working in the Federation of Workers Cooperatives of the United States, which is the organization of membership at a national level of workers cooperatives. Each year, they develop a survey, a census to understand the composition of cooperatives in the country. During 2020, when the COVID hit, this was a year where we were conducted the survey, and we were also doing some work, calling people to make sure that they were okay, to understand their needs. Uh, well, we know obviously that when the pandemic hit, it disrupted the lives of people, of the society as a whole. However, we had a way to identify essential tasks. Food is part of this. However, we were able to observe the labor conditions to which workers were being exposed without any sort of protection, having to continue their work throughout the pandemic. Somehow, when we could speak with cooperatives related to the food shed supply, we were able to understand how these cooperatives were able to organize and articulate to support each other with a sustainability purpose facing this pandemic challenge. Other businesses had to fire a lot of their employees, but cooperatives didn't do so. They were able to guarantee that their employees could continue, their members could continue having some sort of income and provide protection conditions. So a bit of the information that I want to share is part of this federation and the response of cooperative of the pandemic. The image that we see here is Brooklyn Packers. This is as a food distribution cooperative in the sense that a person can pay a membership and you receive the food products that you want to acquire. This was a model that was very popular during the pandemic because we were trying to avoid face-to-face contact or physical contact. This cooperative is located in Brooklyn, New York, and so they started, partnering with producers in the state of New York, a little bit North New York. So they started articulating efforts among different workers and producers cooperative to provide support to their members. Something that we observed during COVID-19 is that cooperatives could decide somehow through their democratic processes the solutions to take to continue with their sustainability. So in this sense, we noted that cooperatives maintained the same number of employees throughout the pandemic, contrary to other companies that have continuous had to continue let go people. There were some tactics to reduce the hours to create these spaces of rest to employees, and that were able to then access some subsidy from the government. But there was a coordination internally in the cooperative to, for employees to keep their jobs and not be fired, especially a lot of people such as myself who we were raising our children. We know that some cooperatives that created our banks to support other people who were raising their children and could not be present and could not comply with their working hours. Another thing that we observe is how cooperatives were able to articulate in a more direct way with the community. They were more connected. So there were some producers cooperatives, some consumer and producers cooperatives that also became food distribution centers. And to connect a little bit with today's topic, yesterday, I was in a session with some members of cooperatives and community members in the Northeast part to access information to create communities. And one of the members present in this session, Steph Wiley, he's a member of this food cooperatives in New York. And he was mentioning how important it is to access the land, to work the land, and have guidance on a specific purpose, access to land. In the sense that when there is a crisis, as we have witnessed, there are different types of impact that we have as a community. If we have not been able to resolve food sovereignty, when there are crises, this is where there is the most impact and people suffer the most. So the purpose of today's session is to know a little bit more about the different modalities and experiences of colleagues that are creating these alternative business models that will provide greater sustainability to our communities. And to this end, let's talk a bit about how the types of or the model of communities being used or implemented. It is so important to have this conversation because there are so many opportunities, and sometimes we don't know, we are not connected. So these are very useful spaces in order to get closer to each other. So let's go to the panel and let's introduce our speakers. So first of all, we have Abel Ruiz. He is part of Crece Urban Farms. He's going to talk a little bit more about his cooperative. Abel was born in Santa Ana, California. when he was months old, his mother went back to live to Zacatecas, Mexico. His whole family was a farmer's family. His family make him appreciate rural life. And in 1996, they immigrated once again to Santa Ana, California. What he likes about Santa Ana is that a very particular city where you can find people from all over Mexico. You can identify diversity. You can identify music, expressions, body language. He has dedicated his last 10 years to contributing to urban farms movements. Urban farm has a lot of challenges, but also opportunities. He likes being part of Crece because together with his colleagues are contributing to their community. They follow their conviction to contribute to creating a better planet where working the land is dignified. Please be welcome, Abel. Thank you very much for being here. I will also like to introduce first Jaime Sosa, but I don't know whether you want to say some welcoming remarks, Abel,
¿Quién yo?
first.
Sí, voy a seguir con Jaime, pero si querías
Yes,
decirle
you.
hola a la
I
gente
want to
que está
introduce
aquí.
Jaime, but I
Sí,
don't know
muchas
if you want to
gracias,
say
Daniela.
hello.
Buenas
Thank you,
noches
Daniela. Good
a
evening, everyone,
por
to
acá,
all
¿no?
participants
Pues
connected
muy,
today.
muy agradecido, ¿no? De esta
I am
oportunidad y compartir
thankful and I
nuestras
really
experiencias en
appreciate this
Santana.
opportunity to share our experience here in Santana.
Gracias.
Thank you very
Y vamos a
much.
seguir entonces con Jaime Sosa.
So let's continue with Jaime Sosa
Jaime
Bautista.
Sosa actualmente radica y trabaja en
He
esta
currently
ciudad de
lives and
California,
works in Santa Ana, California,
dado el precedente familiar de migración pendular que se
and he
denomina del programa
also
Braceros
has a
de los
present from
de los Estados Unidos,
Braceros
donde su abuelo migró
immigration
a
program where
Texas.
his
Proviene de la comunidad
grandfather
de
migrated
Benissa,
to Texas. He's
localizada
part of
en
the
Oaxaca,
Benissa
al sur del
community
Golfo
located in
Mexicano,
Oaxaca at the south of
alejándose de su
Mexico.
lugar de origen, hoy en
He is
día
quite
continúa
far
en
from
la
its
cosecha
place of
de
origin. He continued the
trigo,
legacy with
en
his
aquel entonces
predecessor,
se
which is
metía a desarrollo
agriculture,
por
where he
medio de la
works
participación en
at
la
the
cooperativa
moment.
Salsa
And he
Food
also
Hub,
participates in
de la
Salsa
cual
Food
es
Hub, LLC,
miembro dueño.
where he is a
Así que
working
vamos
member
a
and
comenzar con
owner.
él.
Welcome, Jaime.
¿Cómo estás?
Sí, de igual manera, les agradezco a la invitación. Muchas gracias por tenernos aquí.
Thank you for having me.
Pues vamos a compartir una bonita
And we're going to have a very nice talk about
Muchas gracias. ¿Estamos
our
escuchando
experience.
bien
Thank you.
o estamos escuchando
I don't
como
know
bajo
whether it's
volumen?
me, but your audio is kind of bad, Jaime.
A ver, sí. Mira.
Could you please
¿Podrías compartir hablar un
could you
poquito? A ver
could
si
you
se
speak a
escucha.
little bit more to?
Sí, claro. Sí, muchas gracias nuevamente por la invitación.
Yes, I was just saying thank you for having us today.
Realmente muy efectivamente. Y espero que podamos tener una charla el día de hoy sobre el tema de cooperativas aquí en Estados Unidos. También compartir un poco sobre la trascendencia de los pueblos.
So it is,
Efectivamente estamos teniendo problemas. ¿Podrás
Jaime, we're
repetirnos
having
la
technical
actividad? A
problems
ver
with
si
your
nos
audio.
puedes
Do you have the
por explicarnos un
possibility
poco?
to, move to another place where you may have better connectivity? Because we cannot hear you well.
A ver, voy a tratar una vez más.
Ahí sí, ahí sí. Ahí sí.
¿Sí se me
I will
escucha?
try once again. Is this
Listo.
better?
Bueno,
Yes.
decía, les agradecemos
As I said before,
siempre
we
la
really
invitación.
appreciate the invitation. Thank you so much for having us in this panel.
Una charla sobre la situación de aquí en los Estados Unidos.
To explain the situation here in the United States.
El tema cooperativismo en las comunidades, ¿no?
About cooperatives and our impacting communities. Thank you very much. Maybe you can't leave the session and then come back to see if that improves the audio. Would that be an idea? Thank you so much, Jaime, and I apologize for that. It was good. I don't know what happened. So let's start then with you, Abel.
Entonces, bueno, muy emocionada, ¿no? De poder compartir, ¿no? Contigo este espacio.
We are so glad to share this space with you. You've been working in this initiative for the last 10 years. providing support to this agricultural ecosystem. So could you please speak to us a little bit about your cooperative, where it is, where it's located, how many members do you have, when it was launched, and what's your role within the cooperative?
Sí, muchas gracias, Daniela. Pues
Thank you,
buenas
Daniela.
noches a todos.
Once again, good evening,
Yo soy
everyone.
miembro de
I
Crece.
am
Es un
part of
proyecto
CRECE. This is a
empezó realmente,
project
yo diría que
that
si tuviera que
started.
poner una fecha sería el 2016 cuando
If I had
empezamos
to speak about a
a
date, I
cultivar
would
en el
say
espacio
2016.
donde
This is
estamos
the year where we
ahorita, ¿no?
started
La granjita
planting
como
in
se
this
conoce
the
la
farm that
comunidad.
that's how we know it, the farm where
En
we
sí,
started working.
en esta noche vamos a hablar de dos
So tonight we're gonna speak
como de dos
about
organizaciones, pero en sí trabajamos,
two main
las dos entidades
organizations.
trabajamos bastante juntos,
Both
vendría a
entities
ser que
work
somos
together
del
greatly.
mismo grupo.
Somehow I would say we're the
Tiene
same and only one
misión
group.
de
We
apoyar y
define our mission
abogar
as
por
helping and
agricultores
advocating
nuevos,
for new
particularmente agricultores
producers,
urbanos,
especially
y emergiendo para poder
urban
tener
producers
el
and
desarrollo
emerging
alimentario
producers
local, ¿no?
to, provide
Esa es
for
nuestra
the
definición en nuestra
food chain
misión, ¿no? Y
supply locally. This is our
ah,
mission.
en sí, si me permiten,
If
déjame.
you allow me,
Ahí abajo dice share screen. ¿Quieres compartir?
A ver.
Ahí, perfecto. Estamos viendo tu pantalla. Ah, perfecto.
Ahí sí. Para no regarla, no le voy a hacer más.
I don't want to mess this up, so let me just
Sí, sacas ese cuadrado que dice PDF estándar. Ahí, perfecto.
Entonces, este es nuestro espacio, ¿no? Y
this is our space.
este es el grupo principal
This
y
is
les ayudamos a
our
poder
main
capacitar.
team. We are the
Y
ones
llevamos
taking
6
care
años
of the
cultivando este
farm.
espacio.
We've
Cuando
been
entramos
working in
a
this
este lugar,
space for 6 years. When we
básicamente
started this project,
hay una
it
barda,
was, you can see now
alrededor,
there's a
pero pues
fence, but before there was
había
just, grass.
salvo algunos árboles,
There were some
el
trees.
trabajo que hemos hecho en los últimos 6 años es
However, our
ir
work during the
transformando,
past 6 years to
haciendo que el suelo,
transform and growing together with
ah,
the land, with the soil.
este es el grupo, aquí está Jaime,
Here you can
unos
see
compañeros
Jaime,
que no pudieron llegar,
one of our
Vane,
colleagues that
Ale,
could not
Wendy,
be here,
Vicky
Vane,
y José,
Ale, Wendy, Vicky, Jose.
y pues sí, esos son el grupo principal
So this is
que
the
estamos,
main team.
y ¿cuál otra pregunta tenías?
What was your other question? How many members do you have?
Bueno, ya respondiste cuando lanzaron y cuál es el
Okay, you already answered that. When did you launch your cooperative and
Como una de
what's
las
your main
personas
role?
más, pues yo he estado en el proyecto desde el principio, pues
I've been in the
yo
project since
pues
the very beginning.
le hago de todo,
So
¿verdad?
I
Desde
do a little bit of
trabajar
everything.
en la huerta
I work
hasta temas
in, in the crops
administración,
to
desde
administrative
gráficas,
task
luego
to
estar en colaboraciones,
managing
entonces
grants to
pues es
working with
bastante
partnerships.
diverso las
So
funciones que hago.
my role is
Y
quite
pues sí,
diverse and multitask.
aquí le paro.
And that will be
No
it.
sé si Jaime alcanzó a entrar. ¿Está de vuelta?
Jaime, are you there?
No lo veo, compañeros.
Can anyone see
Sí,
Jaime?
yo lo veo.
Ahí lo veo.
I see him. Okay.
Jaime, si también nos gustaría
Jaime, are you there?
contar un
Could you
poquito
please
de
share a little bit about
desde cómo
salsa?
nació, ¿no?
When did it started, or
¿Cómo trabajas con Crece?
how
No sé si
how's the work
le pusieron pin
together with Crece?
Sí, claro. Ahora sí me escuchan.
Ahora
Yes,
sí.
of course. Can you hear me well?
Sí, sí. Bueno, nuevamente sí. Muchas gracias. Sí, claro.
Thank you
Bueno,
very much.
como mencionaba Abel, que es el presidente de Salsa. Salsa es un proyecto de incubación de personas. Yo me integro básicamente por la pandemia, justamente, ¿no? Pierdo
Jaime,
mi
si
empleo.
puedes apagar un poquito la cámara. A ver si con eso escuchamos mejor. A ver,
¿Listo ahora?
a ver, sí, se
Is
escucha
it good
mejor.
now?
Ahora sí.
Ujú.
¿Sí?
Yes,
Bueno, les
yes.
comentaba,
So as I was saying before,
Salsa empieza
Salsa Cooperative
desde los
started in
países
2020
por cuestiones legales, se lleva la
because of legal issues. We decided to incorporate a cooperative. Personally speaking,
de la pandemia, mi trabajo queda de una manera
because of the pandemic,
ya no puedo seguir labrando por ese
I
motivo. Entonces me
was
toca
let go from my
llevar
work.
a este proyecto, ¿no? Que
So this is when I got involved in this project.
de producción agrícola.
We launched the service for food production.
Podemos decir que hay un precedente
We can say that
en las comunidades de México.
I personally have a precedent
Como los 11 años.
because we learn about cooperatives since the very early years. Since in my case, since I was 11, I had my first interaction with cooperatives. You know, since school, you kind of role play to creating company, and so you learn from a very early age. Community systems are also cooperative systems. When you speak about loans that are given to producers, my grandfather is a part of this in Mexico. The Mexican system also had
CONACO, Consejo Nacional para las Cooperativas.
An entity called the National Council for Cooperatives. However, it has the cooperatives that joined this system did not grow. But what I want to say is that I come with a legacy in creating cooperative in these experiences. So we have many successes, we have many lessons learned, but basically speaking, this is how I started working in cooperatives in Santa Ana. Excellent. And you said something that's quite centered. This is not something new. It's part of our history, it's part of our ancestors. And that is why precisely for us, it's not about relearning, it's about remembering where we come from and our roots. Thank you very much, Jaime. Ana, I'll give you the floor. After listening your origins and your connections with cooperative models, I think it is important to remember the learnings and the community practices of our places of origin. It is important, and at the same time, here in this country, the United States, there are new structures, there are new challenges, there are new challenges in order to get into the cooperative system. So sometimes we need to, just sail through this training solution. So I wanted to ask Abel, because you are in this process of providing support to, giving training capacity building to cooperatives, how has this process been? And what are part of the challenges that you have found and faced, particularly in your community?
Pues el proceso, pues hay muchos, ¿no? Como tú ya lo
Well, there are
remarcaste,
many processes, as you
yo
well
como lo
mentioned,
dijo Jaime,
and
yo diría hasta cierto punto,
regarding
existe
what Jaime mentioned,
en Estados Unidos
somehow, I
pone
think in the United
muchas barreras
States,
que
there
no
are
son tan
so many
fáciles de ser
obstacles.
cooperativa,
Sometimes it is so difficult to be part of a
particularmente en el
cooperative,
ámbito legal.
particularly in
Nosotros
terms of
cooperativistas
legal
hemos sido
issues.
más
Just to give you
específicos.
an example, a
Cooperatives
specific
empezó en
example,
2016.
when CRESE
Nuestra
started in
visión era ser una
2016,
cooperativa.
our vision was to be
Empezamos a trabajar. En ese
a
tiempo no
cooperative. We
teníamos
started
muchos recursos.
working.
Le
We didn't
damos,
have a lot of
le damos
resources at the
espacio.
time.
Todos
So we
contribuimos con el
started
tiempo
contributed with our
que nos
time, with
sobraba
our own
después de nuestros
resources,
trabajos.
our spare
Y así
time
decidimos
after
que
our
por unos buenos
daily
tiempos
jobs. And that's how we work
esta
for
misma
about
situación,
4 years.
nosotros
And because of this
se separaron,
situation, some members actually left. We also got some new
más
members.
o menos como en cierta forma nuestra visión era
And somehow our
poder existir
vision
dentro del trabajo
was to
comunitario,
exist,
como él
do
propiamente lo decía,
community
poder
activities or
cultivar,
work through
de
agriculture
poder
to be able to
definir de
harvest,
dónde viene,
to,
cómo se cultiva la tierra.
define how to,
Entonces nuestra
cultivate
objetivo era
land.
ese, ¿no? Y
So our
hacer
main
un trabajo
purpose was
comunitario
this, to
sin
work
depender
in the community
de requisitos
without
de becas,
depending
porque muchas veces
to, grants,
algunos de nosotros teníamos
timelines.
experiencia
Some of us, we
en
have
el ámbito
experience
corporativo,
in
y no nos
uh,
gustaba, ¿no? No
NGOs,
nos
and we didn't like this
para poder
time
tener
frame.
riqueza
So in order
en la
to
comunidad
have
teníamos que crear otras
greater
alternativas a
growth in our community, we need to
lo,
access
lo
other
modelo, lo
alternatives
cooperativo,
to the
y
um, to the
nosotros
nonprofit
empezamos como
model.
como una
So
acción de apoyo, ¿no?
cooperatives
No éramos los únicos,
emerged
de
from
hecho
this
aquí en
model
Santa
to
Ana,
this alternative
en ese
model. We were
momento
not the only
estaban
ones.
creando
At the
otras
same
cooperativas
time, in Santa
de
Ana, other
campesinos,
cooperatives
pues
were
guardería
being
comunitaria,
integrated or incorporated,
una iniciativa súper
daycare,
reciente, ya ahorita es una
community
organización que se llama
policing,
Cooperación
among
Santa Ana.
others. And we have
Entonces,
an entity, Cooperación Santana,
pero
who oversees all this.
tratar de cerrar mi comentario,
And just to
así
close
lo
my
hicimos por bastante
remarks,
tiempo.
this
Entonces,
is how we work for many
queríamos desarrollar una
years.
cooperativa, pero también
So
queríamos
what we
construir
wanted to have a cooperative, but we wanted to
relaciones
build
con la
something.
comunidad, queríamos
We
hacer
wanted to
programación
build
para ellos,
relationships with community
queríamos hacer,
members. We wanted to provide training.
pues,
We wanted to
queríamos hacerlo en veces gratis, ¿no? Para poder apoyar
to do these things
las
for
necesidades de nuestra
free,
comunidad.
to to be able to
Nosotros
meet the
queríamos
needs of our
personas
community
involucradas, entonces
members.
estábamos
So we wanted to advocate.
en
So
defensa, ¿no?
we had,
El trabajo comunitario no lucrativo
we were at
y el trabajo
defense of
cooperativo,
doing
¿no? Que
nonprofit
ocupa
work and cooperative
fondos,
work
ocupa cierta
because
sustentabilidad económica.
it
Entonces,
requires certain financial
a
sustainability.
2020 más o menos
In
fue cuando
2020,
empezó a haber como
this is the
más,
year where
después de
we,
existir 4 años,
after
había
existing
más
for four
interés de
years,
parte de
there was more interest
el 2020
in
fue cuando
interest
se tomó
on behalf
consideración esa
of
fundación, ¿no?
other members. That our first conversation was with a foundation
pues una beca bastante
that
buena
provided us with
que nos
a
permitió
very
crecer
good
en el
grant
tiempo, darle
that
más
allow
seguimiento a
us
ese
to,
proyecto.
have more team members
Entonces,
join and to have more
hacer
resources
un
for our
programa comunitario,
urban farm and
pero sin
to have
dinero,
more community
entonces
services.
avanzando un poquito más en el tiempo,
A little bit later,
crece,
crece,
decidimos hace como un año poder
we decided about
anclar este
a year
espacio, ¿no?
ago
Del lado no lucrativo,
to anchor
de forma que
this
podamos acceder a
nonprofit
recursos
space
que
to
de otra
access
manera
resources that
nos
otherwise
estaríamos desligando de esos
that
recursos.
otherwise we won't be
Entonces,
able to access.
y entre las programaciones no lucrativas, por ejemplo, hacemos
And
un
within
programa
nonprofit
de
programming,
reducción
we
de
have a
desperdicio,
program for
reducimos
reducing
desperdicio
waste,
para hacer composta, hacemos un
to
banco de
have a
semillas,
compost. We have a seed
hacemos
bank.
talleres constantemente
We have
para hablar
trainings,
sobre los
constant
problemas
trainings to
alimentarios.
speak about
Y,
the problems
y
of the food chain
en cierta forma
supply.
nos posicionamos como un
And
centro de
somehow we were
incubación
able to position ourselves
para
as an
poder desarrollar como
incubator of,
esa palabra
to
que muchos
being
no tuvimos
this
cuando empezamos,
cornerstone that we needed when we started, to be
que
the
vayamos a ser muy
cornerstone
claros,
of other
queremos
initiatives in the
se
community.
puedan apoyar dentro de esta organización, dentro de este espacio
And,
no lucrativo para poder
provide
crecer,
support
¿no?
from
Dar
these organizations to
esa
launch their
certeza
own
comunitaria, ¿no? Esa
cooperatives and creating
comunitaria
this, community strength
que hace
bond
la economía, quiere
that
tomar la economía como
makes
algo fuerte, algo
economy
importante,
as
pero sin
something
dejar otras
essential and
cosas
key
importantes,
without
¿no? Que
abandoning
es
these other key
solidaridad
elements, which
comunitaria,
is community
la
solidarity,
relación con la tierra de una forma
our relationship with the
buena, no
land
explotativa.
in a good and
De ahí
non-exploitative
surge,
way.
por ejemplo, salsa.
This is how
Sí,
salsa came about. SASA was a reaction to the legal issues that we have. Ideally speaking, we wanted to be together, but it's basically navigating through our existing legal system. Thank you, Jaime. I would like to know a little bit more from your side. You were telling us about that you come from your family's experience.
Si mal no
If
escuché
I
bien,
heard it well, you come from Oaxaca, right? So knowing that Oaxaca has vast experience on community practices, community lands,
compartidos como parte de un sistema de
something that is still shared as part of a sustainable system. What have been the challenges to somehow replicate or trying to implement those practices in this community and within our cooperatives here in the United States?
o están siendo
So,
los retos más grandes que han
what are
encontrado?
the greatest challenges that you have found?
Sí, claro, muchas gracias. ¿Cómo
Thank you.
replicar, verdad?
How to replicate?
Creo que una de las cuestiones
I
que
think that
preocupan más en la agricultura o que nos concierne
one of
más
the
es la
things
tenencia de la
that
tierra.
concern us most is land ownership.
En nuestros lugares de origen tenemos acceso a ellas porque
In our
son muchas
places of origin, we have access to the land because it's community land.
constatar de que necesita
Those individuals that are able to confirm and evidence that they need this land are given access to land that's very different to this current situation of this country. Culturally speaking, also,
podemos decir, culturalmente
we
estamos,
could say
nos
that
desarrollamos como tal en el sistema
culturally speaking, we've developed as a community in a cooperative system.
puede para muchas personas que no han
So for a lot of
crecido de
people
una manera
that
introducidas a esto puede crear un
have
poco de
not been
confusión, ¿no?
introduced to this type of system,
Para
it may create some
nosotros
sort of
no es
confusion.
así
But
porque
for
en
us,
realidad
this is
es
not the
como
case
nosotros nos
because
desarrollamos el día a día, entonces no
this
tenemos ni un
is
problema.
our daily
Claro,
work,
sí
our daily
tenemos
activities. So we don't
también
have
visiones propias, ¿no? Tanto como propias,
we
tanto
don't
como
have
a nivel
our own visions. We have our community visions. We have to make this very clear because we have a cooperative systems that serves to create cells,
familia, ¿no? También.
and
En
we
otras
have a lot
familias
for
también se
families,
entrelazan entre sí para lograr fines en común,
families
y
that
entonces
become
de una u otra
members
manera
to
se desarrolla
achieve a
mucho.
common goal. So somehow
Entonces, sí,
we
yo no
come from
sabía que se
this
aplicaba a nivel
greater
mundialmente, ¿no? O
development.
sea,
I didn't know that this
como
was applicable
la
worldwide.
redundancia.
This is something
Pero
new
sí,
for
la
me.
tenencia de la tierra es, creo, el
However,
desafío
land
que
ownership, I
tenemos
think this is our
en
greatest
este
challenge.
siglo
That's what I want to say. Our greatest challenge
una
in
visión más a
today's
futuro
world and to having a more
no tenemos
futuristic
la
vision
información
because we don't have the
para
ideal
mucho más
situation with regards to land ownership. And this is our main challenge.
Sí, perdón, solamente como para cerrar
Just to close these remarks of Jaime and give you the floor, Daniela, I completely agree. What I hear from you is something that our colleague,
está en la parte del noroeste, pero no sé si está en
our colleague
Massachusetts.
from the Northeast area, I don't know whether he's in Massachusetts or Connecticut. He's a member of the Black community. And this point about land ownership was something that he greatly highlighted and remarked. He's also part of agricultural cooperative initiatives, and it is definitely a challenge to navigate the legal systems in the country is already a challenge, but accessing land ownership
La posibilidad de la
and the
sustentabilidad.
possibility of long-term sustainability, because as you know, rents are not affordable and for people. I give back the floor to you, Daniela. Absolutely, I agree completely with what you both have mentioned. Land ownership but also what Abel mentioned,
estas barreras de estructuras legales, ¿no? Que
this legal
es una parte que
structure
pueden ayudar,
barriers.
pueden
Sometimes it can
ayudar
help, sometimes it can't, you know,
más difícil. Y pensando en eso, lo que decías, colocando
obstaculize.
en realidad,
And thinking about what you both
voy
mentioned,
a partir contigo, Abel.
I'm going to start with you, Abel.
¿Cuáles fueron esas cosas que tú
What
identificaste?
are those,
Podríamos, ¿no? Apoyar,
what have you identified
mencionaste
as,
que nosotros no tuvimos, ¿no? Cuando empezamos.
because you
¿Cuáles
said what we didn't have, you want to be the corner store that you didn't have. What are those areas where we could provide support to you
en estos
to
recursos
achieve the goals that you want to achieve? What is the type of support that we can provide to you to develop further your goals?
Pues en cierta forma creo que
Somehow, I
algo muy
think
bueno que ha salido de estos
that's
6 años de
something
trabajo es
that's
que
really good and that
se
has
ha
come out
cultivado
from
una
these 6 years
relación
of
de
work
ecosistema,
is
¿no?
that we have
En sentido
cultivated
de,
a good relationship,
porque en mi opinión ha
support and
funcionado muy,
relationships. So in
por
my
ejemplo,
opinion, I
una relación
think it has been of great help. We have, for example, a
firma de
partnership with
abogados que
a law
trabajan
firm
pro bono.
that
Entonces,
do pro bono
ellos
work.
han sido como bastante buenos, ¿no? De cualquier pregunta en
They
cuanto a
have been
permisos,
really great
regulaciones
in
y no
terms
solo
of
en
permits,
actividades
providing information about
agrícolas que hacemos,
permits,
sino,
licenses,
por
not only for
ejemplo,
agricultural activities,
como por ejemplo, direct market strategies, ¿no? ¿Cómo le
but
hacemos
for instance, direct
esto
marketing
para
strategies.
presentar?
And, we say, how
Primero
we
eso
do this?
ya
And
es
they
como
start researching. And
un lugar
the
que nos
fact
respalda y
of,
que es bastante,
the mere
pues nos da
fact of
cierta
having a
seguridad,
law
¿no?
firm to provide us support,
Y al
that
mismo
provide
tiempo,
us with a
pues,
certain
por ejemplo, ya mencionar
security and
Cooperación
certainty. As
Santana,
I mentioned before, we have Cooperación
que
Santana
han ayudado bastante, ¿no? Porque
that
lo que
have
se aprende
greatly
en una
helped us,
cooperativa aquí en
because
Santana,
what you learn in
ya lo van
cooperatives
pasando
and
a la otra
Santana is, then
y
pass on to the
en cierta
next
forma,
cooperative. So
como
somehow
equipo,
there is
mantenemos
this
bastante esa ayuda,
network
¿no? Entonces,
that, we
conforme
meet
íbamos trabajando en el
frequently.
jardín y desarrollando el espacio, al mismo tiempo nos estábamos
And
apoyando
in the
con ayuda
extent
del
that we
ecosistema para
develop
hacer
the
nuestras
farm,
estructuras
we
de
also
decisiones.
develop our
Entonces,
part of,
el
we also
programa
develop the cooperative,
operativo de
to for
salsa,
decision
pues
making. For
básicamente
example,
también
our
tiene que ver
operations
eso,
manual
porque
of
todos lo estamos
Salsa is
haciendo
basically
basando en
the
decisiones
operations
conjuntas.
manual of
Cuando
Crece,
pase esto,
because
¿cómo lo
we
vamos a
got
hacer, no?
together to, decide what we
En
wanted
cierta
to do,
forma
how
yo
we
creo
wanted to
que
do it. And somehow I think
el
that,
papel no es todo, pero sí provee cierta
paper a
estructura
piece of paper is
y
not
cierta
everything, but it does
fundamentos
provide with certain structure and
donde podemos todos respaldarnos y
fundaments
decir, bueno, pues ya hicimos esta
where we
definición y
can't,
así es como dijimos que lo
back
vamos a
up our
hacer, ¿no?
decisions, or we can
Entonces,
justify the
es
things that we do in the way we
colaboración en
do it,
común.
because it creates a
Entonces, yo
common
diría que es
conversation. So
bastante
I
el trabajo de
think
6
that
años, ¿no? No
this has
solo
been the
crece,
work of
pero
6 years, not
Cooperación
only in
Santana y otras
Crece, but for
cooperativas,
Cooperación Santana and other
este,
cooperatives.
también vale mencionar, por ejemplo, en eso de la tenencia de la
It is also worth noting that regarding land ownership,
en eso de la tenencia de la tierra,
regarding
se
land
creó
ownership,
un fideicomiso, un land
we
trust,
created
digamos,
a trust, a land trust
que en cierta forma,
that,
aunque cada grupo está trabajando en su propia forma y con su propia
although
estructura,
each group is working with it in its
estamos como
own
nutriéndonos al
structures,
tanto y por
we
la
are
visión que
always
tenemos, ¿no? De
aware
lo que nosotros aprendemos
of what's
en nuestro
happening with the
mundo
vision of
desde
learning.
prácticas
And
en
we've
el
been
campo
learning from, land
hasta ámbitos
techniques and
legales para
such
algún día
to
poder
legal
decirles a
issues.
otras personas en la comunidad
And the hope
que
is that someday we can,
iniciar otras campañas
pass
en
along
la zona urbana, ¿no?
this education, this
A lo mejor es un poco
information.
diferente en áreas más
So this is maybe
agrícolas,
something a little bit different
pero
in
en la zona urbana pues
larger
tenemos más
areas,
espacios,
but
más
in the
clientes
urban
que servir
areas, there are no
pues
spaces.
en la forma
So
de
we
que
have to be quite strategic
vamos a
when
acceder
it
a la
comes
tierra y
to
trabajar con residentes,
access
¿no?
to land and working with the
Nosotros
residents.
tenemos nuestra
For
granja
example, we
y
have
hemos
our
empezado a hacer
farm,
como acuerdos
but we have
con las casas de
started,
las personas, con los
partnering
vecinos,
with
para
other
poder, muchas
neighbors
personas tienen pues
to,
zacate
because
en
some
sus
people
yardas,
have, grass
entonces
in
hacemos
their
un treque, ¿no?
gardens.
Les
So we
cedemos
kind
su
of
zacate y los
exchange,
hacemos cultivar en sus
we
casas
exchange their
para
grass
poder,
for
pues ahora sí que
harvest
de que
and
ellos se quedan
crops.
como con 10%
you know, with the commission of giving them 10% of the harvest, and so we can't, you know, take the rest for the purposes of the cooperative. So this is where I emphasize on the opportunities and challenges of being part of an urban area that has its own way of, you know, growing crops.
Ay, qué poderoso todo lo que te escucho, ¿no? Y vamos al trueque.
Everything that you say is so powerful, you know, exchange, and we find ways to resolve and to meet the needs that we have as a community. And this is something that inspires me. Everything that you do. How can we turn something around?
Económico en el que estamos insertos y que tenemos que solucionar, ¿no? No va en
These economical systems where we're in, we need to resolve, we need to find the way around it, or however it is, in order to, you know, and as a community, we can achieve so much. So everything you say is so inspiring.
Y pensando en ti, Jaime, también estoy
And
pensando
thinking about your case, Jaime, and all the experience that you have from your family, from your culture, have you ever, maybe you've heard frequently different things that may have impacted you? You know, sometimes our grandparents' sayings, or maybe another person, maybe a colleague gave you an advice that was, you know, printed in your mind, something that you would like to share with more people, or maybe something that you have done, that you have assessed by yourself, and that you would like to share with the participants today.
Perdón, se cortó una parte.
I apologize, I lost the sound.
Ahora te estamos escuchando muy mal, Jaime.
Now we cannot hear you well, Jaime.
No sé si te moviste en algún momento.
Did you move?
Me mandaron hartos tips por aquí que podíamos hacer. A ver ahí. Por el teléfono a lo mejor.
Maybe it's your phone.
¿Nos puede escuchar? ¿No? ¿No?
Can you hear me, Jaime?
¿Sí me escuchan?
Ahí sí.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Muchas gracias. Perdón, me conecté.
Thank you. I connected through my phone, but you need to mute the other one, because otherwise you have rebound.
El del computador, si lo pones en mute. Y así hablas por el teléfono. Suena como una puerta de una película de miedo.
It sounded as a screeching door from a scary movie.
Jaime, ¿sí? ¿Puedes hablar por el teléfono?
Jaime, can you use,
Ahí sí.
we can hear you. I apologize for all the interruptions. I have a bad technology these last days. Well, generally speaking, what would I like to share? Personally speaking, I think that there's a lot of conviction to working as a community. This is something that pleases us greatly as a native population, that to have this vision to the future and how to overcome us and get to a situation of progress, economical progress, without leaving sustainability behind with regards to the protection of the land. Generally speaking, we need to look to the future and have complete conviction that what we're doing was assigned to us by our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors, and to continue with these activities, to guide ourselves by this, to think long-term about it. If we do not receive today, maybe we can't give to the next, because we are doing the right thing. and that we're not going to, give up because of other factors that have nothing to do with our way of living.
Tan cierto, tan cierto.
Yes, and that is so true, Jaime.
Esto va más allá, ¿no? Es como una forma de vida.
This goes beyond. This is a lifestyle. When we speak of cooperatives, this is a business model that allow us to not be invisible because we have needs to meet within the system.
Creo que es como un contenedor.
But I think that this is like a container of the wisdom that we have, that we bring along from our past, present, and future, of providing support to each other, of the different ways in which we can help each other, provide assistance to each other. And I think human beings, in essence, is part of a tribe. The human being in its best version is part of a tribe. It's not an individual. So if we cannot advance as a group, it doesn't work. We're not comfortable with it. It's not a comfort area. When we need to, it's not, and it's not great for us if we don't work as a group. This is such a rich conversation. I would like to give the floor to Ana. And please remind you, if you have any question or remarks in the chat, you can raise your hands, you can open your mics, or you can write it in the chat. Ana, you have the floor.
Vale. Sí, bueno, escuchando Jaime,
Well,
¿no? Otra vez.
Listening to Jaime was again what you were sharing. I remember very well being in Mexico and attending assemblies in native towns where, and I'm talking about decades ago, and we were working in lawsuits against the extraction of resources and land removal. And a lot of a great part of this protest, again, multinationals, many times from here, from the United States. And now that we are here, a lot of our communities have migrated here because of the conditions of
Entonces, me gusta mucho escuchar esto, ¿no?
because of the disposition of land given in our places of origin. So I'm really glad to hear about what you say about our ancestors, about their struggle that they lived through. And I would like to hear a little bit more about Jaime. What's your vision to the future? What's the vision of Salsa and Crece?
buscando construir
The vision that you want to build in this present, but also for the future communities coming ahead of us.
Claro. Bueno, sí.
Yes, well, we are every day, as we said, we live through the insecurity of land ownership, but we give our best effort every day. We give our all, and agriculture, I think, in certain aspects, agriculture can be quite challenging because of climate change, because of economic issues. We cannot fight against this agricultural system here established here in the United States. So we are in a more sustainable situation with different considerations of the land, but this is challenging. And this is our path. We are introducing a model for people to believe, because a lot of people are agnostics. They disqualify our work, and that's why this is a daily challenge. and we speak about our conviction every day, because so that new members, so that the youth can see this model and they can take ownership of these models, and they make the decision to continue the work and continue what they have observed. And I think this is key. This is what I can say.
Abel, muchas gracias, Jaime.
Abel, thank you, Jaime. Abel.
Sí, oye, pues seguimos, ¿no? Seguimos
Well, we continue in our path,
donde estamos es de que acabamos de lanzar a Salsa, ¿no? Salsa se acaba
We just launched Salsa. Salsa was just formalized before the state this past December.
Legalmente tenemos
So legally
18
speaking,
meses como
we have about, we've been just for 18 months, we've been a member. Grecia can to provide resources, research, and other resources to, strengthen Salsa and have it made financially independent, and having the possibility that more members are part of this cooperative. So we are working together, we're working together with Salsa. From a nonprofit perspective, we're working in a learning program that will greatly help to provide the main fundamentals of cooperativism, the structures of cooperatives, and basic practices on how to take care of the land. And I think, well, I think I've learned from different places how to do things. And somehow, the way that we're doing it, it's a little bit different because, for example, I think we're developing our own harvesting methodology based on the resources available to us. In this urban area, we have a lot of landscaping companies that have a lot of mulch, and I think thanks to mulch, we have been able to have compost and apply this to harvesting areas or farming areas. I think in other places that I have visited, this is not applied in the same way. So this is just an example. To add into what Jaime mentioned, our strength is that we have a seed that we take care of, that we harvest, that we grow, that we distribute. We have also organic boxes distribution. We sell also subscription to community members, and they actually establish the box price according to their income. And they, give us all the vegetables that they don't use from their homes, and we can use this for the compost. So we are now in the community, in the neighborhood. I would say that this is quite a replicable model in other parts of the city or other communities. Lastly, there are so many things to do. There are so many things that we want to achieve, that we want to explore, that we want to learn. But I think that our strength, the strength of this collaboration and this partnership with Salsa and Creci lies in the future. Maybe we can have other partnerships with other cooperatives where we can create, a network and connect all of us to, to exchange information, to share resources, to learn from each other, and things that could, resolve from this. I think next year we're going to start a new farm together with the land trust that I mentioned earlier, where we'll be able to, it's going to be some sort of coffee place. The space is quite reduced for harvesting, But what we want to do is having more presence to, place our flag and continue growing this model. And maybe when we're out of this and we, deliver our work, maybe there's someone else who can continue with this work. This is part of the work that we envision, where we are at right now and where we'll be heading to. Thank you. There's a question in the chat, and it says, how does the community react to the cooperative work? Since entering in the legal area, it's a little bit complicated to understand, and it's managed in English, which is a language barrier. How do you face these challenges? Jaime, would you like to answer or shall I answer?
Sí, gracias, Enrique.
Sí, puedes apagar la cámara, Jaime. Se te apagó el
Can
micrófono.
you turn off the webcam?
Ahí sí.
Can you hear me? Yes. Definitely, I believe, and one of the conclusions that we have together with Abel was all institutions that have greatly supported us. One of their question is what advice will they give us? What advice do we want? And one of the things is the legal accompaniment, because this is a key for the development of the cooperative. The language is quite inclusive in Spanish now. So for me, from my personal experience here in Santana, a lot of the documents were already translated. But as Abel mentioned, we do need an accompaniment from legal experts, tutors, or some others that have already the experience of a cooperative. This is imperative because it may sound a little bit overwhelming when we hear about, new technicalities, things that we don't know, and that we may fall in negligence. And sometimes even it may sound as we want someone to take our hand, but the fact is that we can't face situations that overcome us. So with the help of a great mentorship, this could be possible. Going back a little bit, and I apologize for this, I think I want to make the case in the sense that we are accepted in the organic sector. And in spite that our conventional agriculture is quite ahead of us, there is a lot of demand of people that want to consume healthy products that are harvested and produced with awareness. So this is something in our benefit. And the cooperative and the collaboration system is the only way to, overcome the situation.
Y había un poquito, Ana, no sé, hay un comentario extra el que había hecho justamente.
There is an additional comment. Thank you, Jaime, for your answers. This is just a comment. What is the market area to have economic success? I'm hearing about partnerships, about collaborations. There is a need of people to have access to products that they know their origin, that they know that there is awareness in their production. Would you like to add something additional to this?
Sí, gracias, Elsa.
Thank you, Elsa.
Pues yo diría que hay mucha tela de dónde cortar, ¿no? Digamos,
there is so much to talk about in this topic. For example, Ana was mentioning that when the pandemic for COVID-19 hit, we launched, for example, an organic box initiative in months, memberships applications, were so high that we could not, we had even 10 families in waiting list, I think, because it was so much. So talking about the COVID-19 context, it affected us in many ways, in very ugly ways in our community. But on the other hand, we also had an increased awareness on the food access and how to access healthy food. So in this way, I think it greatly helped us. Generally speaking, I think that we continue growing and growing this program of organic boxes by opening other spaces. This could lead us to have more members. Another area that somehow arose or emerged was that through state initiatives, there's a lot of money that is being given to certain agency. For example, food banks is acquiring local crops. They have a budget for it. And I don't know whether you're familiar with BIPAN. They try to reach color communities, so they have reached out to us. Also having tours. Being part of the urban area makes us more visible. So this is another area where we are constantly being requested for tours. And as mentioned before, very randomly, we have also a collaboration, a partnership with a school district that receive, 35,000 students that they need to feed every single day. And we have a great initiative at this moment to transition from processed food and cook healthy food for the students. So we're working together for this. This was not, planned. This emerged from somewhere, and we are taking advantage of this initiative. Another area that we're exploring, taking advantages of the skills of our own members. Jaime, for example, I don't know how he learned this, but when he entered the project, he knew how to, grow. He knew how to grow mushrooms, and this is one of the crops that we have that we add to the organic box, and that I think we could be able to sell it to the district. And also Steve, which is another colleague from Crece, we all work together at the end. He's he's a certified beekeeper and he's or apiculturist, and he's working with the county to have residential beekeeping, and we want to continue this to be able to include it in the organic box. This is another type of relationship that we have with community members, because each organic box is, we share what we're going to harvest, and we give a certain percentage to the house and another percentage to the organic boxes, or we sell it as a special product. So to be honest, we continue grow, we continue, we set the rules on how we want to produce, and the purpose of all of this is to, support each other, to grow together, and to access these opportunities together. I don't know whether I answered your question.
Mira, ya creo que ha ido como uniendo, diciendo cositas, pero estoy
I
pensando.
think you have, we have thread. What's the process? And I can imagine thinking about salsa with,
¿Tienen algún sistema de reclutamiento?
do you have any sort of recruitment system for new members? Have you thought about a recruitment system? Jaime mentioned it is so important to have a mentorship. Could you share about how is this process is if you have it?
¿Le quieres dar, Jaime, o...
Jaime, would you like to answer or should I?
Sí, listo. Muchas gracias. Pues con la colaboración de Crece, creo que...
With the cooperation of Crece, we are working in an outline for adding more members. There's a lot of affinity in the community. There are a lot of people interested in these initiatives. And as Abel mentioned, our colleague Steven, he came to us and he's, this is the way that we add members. This is a model that we implement every day. We want new members when we do things that are truly impacting in a good way the community, then there's a lot of interest. And there's also always going to reach people who are interested in this type of situations or initiatives. So I think that's the best marketing that there is, to reach people.
Perfecto.
Perfect.
Están compartiendo, te voy a dar el espacio a Abel, están compartiendo las evaluaciones.
So we are sharing some surveys to our dear participants. If you could just, fill in the link. This is a tool for us.
A la expectativa, si estamos logrando.
Whether we are, reaching or meeting your expectations, whether there are something else that we should add to the community talks. Abel, would you like to add something?
Pues sí, creo que lo único...
I think the only thing I would like to add is that to this question, this is also been the process of recruiting members. This is the way that we enter. We got, we contact someone, for example, in the case of Steve, we say, well, Steve is great. He's so, friendly to each other. And that's how we added him as a members. Looking ahead, because we are going to have new spaces for agriculture and food production, we are thinking about developing a training course or an induction course for members of the community so that they can understand a bit more what we can achieve, independently. If they say, I have the tools and I can do it with my friends, or if they want to be part of Salsa. At this moment, our strategy is to make Salsa as sustainable as possible. In other models of cooperative here in Santana, they get a group together and although there's not a lot of work, they get together and they try to create, they have to have some income. And I mean, the greatest challenge here is to going from having certain income from this project, but I still depend from other works to, our model or our practices, which is to ensure and guarantee that people that enters in this cooperative are going to be able to sustain themselves from agriculture alone, from 20 hours to full time. So this is our vision ahead.
es un trabajo que le dicen skill.
Agriculture is a skilled labor, as they
Toma
call
mucho
it.
conocimiento para aprender los
It
ciclos
takes great knowledge to learn the cycles
coordinar
of each
tareas.
plant, to
Entonces,
coordinate tasks.
a cada miembro que estamos en el jardín, se
So
le
each
dedica bastante
member
tiempo
in the farm
para poder compartir y hay bastante
needs to
conversación
learn a
entre
lot.
ellos.
We have a
Oye,
lot of
esto,
conversation and
así no le hago,
discussion on how do you do
¿cómo le
this
vamos a
and
hacer?
how do you do
Entonces,
that.
entonces y pues se toma mucha coordinación para poder cultivar
But
el
it
suelo.
takes a lot of coordination
Entonces,
in
por eso
order to,
no
you
abrimos
know,
tanto no hemos abierto tanto la
so
oportunidad
that's why
para
we have not
para
opened
grandes
the
cantidades de gente.
opportunity to incorporate larger number of
Pero con
people. It's
el aprendizaje a lo mejor
case
podemos
by
dar un poquito más de
case.
aceleración a eso.
But with this learning course, maybe we can accelerate that. Okay, here is a survey, please. We would really appreciate if you could share your thoughts and remarks on this first community talk. We do hope that we were able to clarify any doubts or questions that you may have before entering into this community talk. This is one of a series of community talks. I would like to thank Jaime and Abel for being here, for sharing their experiences and their learnings with the communities of Santa Cruz. I know that I feel so inspired by everything that they are doing. And so our next community talk will be held on the second day of March. We're going to speak about home care. We're going to have the participation of two panelists coming from different organizations that have been working in this topic for many time. And then on March 23rd, we're going to be speaking of environmental services with always with the vision of sustainability, right? Without any further ado, let's stop sharing the screen so we can all say goodbye. Thank you so much for being a part of this community talk.